Nestled between sprawling oak trees and manicured lawns lies Maplewood Grove, a picturesque suburban community that boasts a charming blend of cozy homes and friendly neighbors. The streets are lined with vibrant flower beds, each maintained to perfection, showcasing the pride residents take in their properties. At the heart of this idyllic neighborhood is a homeowners association, or HOA, an organization designed to uphold property values and ensure the community remains inviting for all. However, behind its well-intentioned facade lies a strict enforcement of rules that governs every aspect of life in Maplewood Grove. From mandatory lawn maintenance to restrictions on holiday decorations, the HOA has established itself as a powerful entity, often leading to tension among residents. Among them is Karen, the self-proclaimed enforcer of these regulations. With her clipboard in hand and an eagle eye for rule-breaking, she can be both a source of amusement and dread for her neighbors. The power dynamics within the community shift subtly as Karen wields her authority, often targeting those she deems non-compliant. Her reputation precedes her, instilling a sense of unease among residents who fear her wrath. Little do they know that beneath the seemingly tranquil surface lies a brewing storm, one that will soon unravel the very fabric of their cozy neighborhood and challenge the grip Karen has over it. As tensions rise and conflicts emerge, the stage is set for an unexpected confrontation that no one could have predicted. In Maplewood Grove, no figure is more notorious than Karen, the self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood's rules. With meticulously styled bob and an ever-present scowl, she has made it her mission to uphold the HOA regulations with an iron fist. Known affectionately and somewhat sarcastically among residents as HOA Karen, she takes great pride in her role. Armed with a clipboard and an unwavering sense of authority, she prowls the streets, ready to pounce on any infraction, no matter how minor. Karen's reputation as an overbearing enforcer precedes her. Neighbors whisper about her unsolicited inspections, where she scrutinizes everything from fence heights to paint colors. She has been known to knock on doors uninvited, demanding compliance with the latest HOA mandates. Many residents have learned to tiptoe around her, often going out of their way to keep their properties in check for fear of receiving one of her infamous violation notices. Yet beneath this tough exterior lies a woman who craves control in an ever-changing world. Her obsession with order masks a deeper insecurity, a need to feel important in a community where she believes chaos lurks just beneath the surface. As she tightens her grip on the neighborhood, it becomes clear that her authority is both a source of power and a catalyst for conflict. Little does Karen know that her latest target will challenge her reign in ways she never anticipated, unraveling her carefully constructed facade as the ultimate HOA enforcer. The tension in Maplewood Grove reached a boiling point one sunny Saturday morning when the protagonist, excitedly preparing for a small garden party, decided to hang a string of colorful lights around their porch. It was a simple, festive touch meant to create a cheerful atmosphere for friends and family. However, unbeknownst to them, this seemingly innocent act would set off alarm bells for Karen. As she made her rounds, clipboard in hand, Karen's sharp eyes caught sight of the lights twinkling against the backdrop of the freshly painted house. Her expression twisted into a scowl as she marched up to the property. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice carrying an authoritative edge that made the protagonist's heart race. "You can't have those lights up without prior approval from the HOA." Taken aback by her sudden appearance and confrontational tone, the protagonist attempted to explain that it was just a temporary decoration for a gathering. But Karen was having none of it. Her demeanor shifted from annoyed to hostile as she brandished her clipboard like a weapon. "You're in violation of at least 2 HOA rules. If you don't take them down immediately, I'll have no choice but to initiate eviction proceedings." Stunned by her overreaction, the protagonist felt a surge of indignation. How could such a minor infraction escalate to something so drastic? Little did Karen know that this confrontation would spiral into an unexpected battle for ownership and control in Maplewood Grove, setting the stage for an epic showdown. In the days following Karen's explosive confrontation, the protagonists found themselves unable to shake off the unsettling encounter. Determined to defend their home and restore a sense of calm, they decided to delve deeper into the HOA rules and their own property records. With a slight knot of anxiety in their stomach, they pulled out the deed to their house, a document that had been gathering dust since they moved in. As they sifted through the paperwork, a shocking revelation emerged. The protagonist had always assumed they were renting from the HOA, as many neighbors had done in the past. But upon closer inspection, it became clear that they were not just tenants. They were the rightful owners of the property. The deed bore their name, clearly indicating ownership, and with it came the rights that Karen so brazenly attempted to strip away. The irony was striking. While Karen had threatened eviction, she was actually trying to push out someone who held more authority over property than she did. This twist ignited a fire within the protagonist. No longer would they be intimidated by Karen's self-righteousness or her misguided sense of power. Armed with newfound knowledge and confidence, they resolved to confront her once more, ready to reclaim their space and challenge her authority in a way that would turn the tables in this escalating battle. With the shocking discovery of their ownership fresh in mind, the protagonists set out on a mission to gather all necessary documentation that would prove their case against Karen. First, they meticulously retrieved the property deed, ensuring it was not only signed but also properly recorded with the local government. The weight of ownership felt reassuring, but they knew it was just one piece of the puzzle. Next, they turned their attention to the HOA bylaws, which outlined the rules and regulations governing the neighborhood. Armed with a highlighter and a notepad, the protagonists combed through the pages, searching for any clauses that highlighted their rights as a homeowner. Each revelation felt like armor against Karen's incessant harassment. As they worked, Karen's behavior escalated. She began making daily visits to the protagonist's home, using her clipboard to jot down notes and threats. "You should really consider following the rules," she'd say with a condescending smile, as if her presence alone could intimidate them into submission. Her passive-aggressive comments only fueled the protagonist's determination. Finally, after days of research and preparation, they compiled a robust file containing the deed, HOA bylaws, and even anecdotal evidence from neighbors who had witnessed Karen's overreach. With this documentation in hand, the protagonist felt ready to confront Karen once more, this time with firm understanding of their rights and an unwavering resolve to stand their ground against her oppressive tactics. As news of the escalating conflict between the protagonist and Karen spread through Maplewood Grove, the community's response was anything but unanimous. Conversations buzzed in backyards and across picket fences, with neighbors divided in their opinions. Some residents, weary of Karen's relentless enforcement of the HOA rules, quietly began to rally around protagonist. They admired their courage to stand up against what they saw as Karen's tyrannical behavior. One neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, a longtime resident known for her warm cookies and welcoming smile, openly expressed her support. "It's about time someone stood up to her," she remarked during a small gathering, her voice filled with conviction. Others nodded in agreement, sharing tales of their own run-ins with Karen's overreaching authority. However, not everyone was on the protagonist's side. A faction of neighbors, some who had benefited from Karen's strict enforcement, viewed her as a necessary force for maintaining order in the community. They argued that without her vigilance, chaos would reign in Maplewood Grove. A couple of them even approached the protagonist with thinly veiled threats, warning that defying Karen could lead to repercussions from the HOA. This division created an electric atmosphere in the neighborhood, where whispers echoed down the streets and allegiances shifted like shifting sands. The protagonist felt the weight of their newfound support, but also recognized the stakes involved. With tensions rising and lines drawn, it became clear that this conflict was about more than just one house. It was a battle for the very soul of Maplewood Grove itself. Feeling the pressure mount and recognizing the gravity of the situation, the protagonist made the pivotal decision to consult a lawyer specializing in property and HOA disputes. As they sat in the lawyer's office, surrounded by legal books and framed diplomas, a sense of reassurance washed over them. This was a crucial step in understanding their rights and preparing for any potential battle against Karen and her HOA. During the consultation, the lawyer meticulously reviewed the property deed and HOA bylaws that the protagonist had gathered. "You have a solid case," she said, her tone both professional and encouraging. She explained that as an owner, the protagonist had rights that were protected under local and state laws. The HOA could impose rules, but they could not arbitrarily evict someone who legally owned their home. The discussion soon turned to the implications of Karen's threats. The lawyer outlined what eviction proceedings would look like if Karen followed through with her claims. It's important to document everything, she advised, emphasizing that a clear record of all communications with Karen and the HOA will be vital in any legal dispute. Armed with this newfound knowledge, the protagonists felt a surge of confidence. They were no longer just a target of Karen's harassment. They were a homeowner ready to defend their rights. With legal support backing them up, they prepared to face Karen head-on, knowing that they had both the law and their community behind them in this unexpected fight. The day of reckoning arrived, and the air was thick with tension as the protagonists prepared for a face-to-face confrontation with Karen. Word had spread through Maplewood Grove about the looming showdown, and curious neighbors peeked from behind curtains and doorways, eager to witness the clash. With their documentation in hand and legal backing fresh in mind, the protagonists felt a mix of apprehension and resolve. As Karen approached, clipboard in hand, her usual smugness radiated off her. "I thought I made it clear that those lights need to come down," she said, her tone sharp and condescending. "You're still in violation of HOA rules." But this time, the protagonist stood tall. "Actually, Karen, I'm here to discuss my rights as a homeowner," they replied firmly, their voice steady despite the fluttering in their chest. "I am not just some tenant you can threaten with eviction." Karen's eyes widened in disbelief as the protagonist presented the property deed. "This is my house. You have no authority to evict me or dictate how I decorate my home." The neighbors watching from a distance felt a collective gasp ripple through the crowd. For a moment, silence hung in the air, thick with disbelief. Karen's facade began to crack as she struggled to regain her composure. "You're making a mistake," she stammered. But now it was clear that the dynamic had shifted. The protagonists had asserted their rights and gained the upper hand, igniting a spark of courage within themselves and inspiring others in the community who had long felt oppressed by Karen's reign. The confrontation had escalated into a turning point that would reverberate throughout Maplewood Grove. The day of the HOA meeting arrived, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Neighbors gathered in the community center, murmuring among themselves as they took their seats. The room buzzed with energy, a mix of curiosity and tension, as residents prepared to witness the unfolding drama between protagonist and Karen. As the meeting commenced, Karen wasted no time asserting her authority, presenting her case against the protagonist with rehearsed bravado. "This individual has shown blatant disregard for our community rules," she declared, her voice dripping with disdain. But as she spoke, the protagonist felt a rush of determination. This was their moment. When it was finally their turn to speak, the protagonist stood before the assembled neighbors, armed with their deed and a comprehensive understanding of HOA regulations. "I appreciate this opportunity to address my situation," they began, their voice steady as they locked eyes with Karen. "I am not violating any rules. I am the rightful owner of my home." The room fell silent as the protagonists laid out their evidence, clearly detailing how Karen's threats were unfounded. As they spoke, supportive murmurs began to ripple through the crowd. Neighbors who had been hesitant to confront Karen found their voices, adding anecdotes of their own encounters with her overstepping authority. By the end of the presentation, a palpable shift had occurred. The protagonists had not only defended their rights, but had also rallied a community that was eager for change. With newfound camaraderie, residents began to voice their support for a more balanced approach to neighborhood governance, igniting a wave of solidarity that challenged Karen's long-held reign over Maplewood Grove. The HOA meeting marked a turning point in the conflict, and the aftermath unfolded with surprising clarity. After the protagonists presented their case and rallied support from their neighbors, the board voted overwhelmingly to reject Karen's threats of eviction. The sense of relief was palpable, and the room erupted in applause as many residents stood in solidarity with the protagonist. Karen, visibly shaken, could only watch as her authority crumbled before her eyes. In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere in Maplewood Grove shifted dramatically. With newfound confidence, the protagonists began to engage more with their community, attending neighborhood events and fostering connections that had previously felt strained under Karen's rule. Inspired by their bold stand, other residents began to speak out against unfair practices within the HOA, advocating for more transparency and equitable enforcement of rules. Karen's influence diminished significantly as homeowners banded together, demanding a more balanced approach to governance. The community took steps to revise certain bylaws, ensuring that no single individual could wield unchecked power over others. Although Karen remained a resident in Maplewood Grove, her reign as the unchallenged enforcer had come to an end. For the protagonist, this experience transformed them into a confident advocate for themselves and their neighbors. No longer afraid of confrontation or intimidation, they emerged as a leader in the community, ready to protect their home and support others facing similar challenges. The journey had not only reclaimed their space, but it also ignited a spirit of unity among residents, fostering a vibrant neighborhood where everyone felt empowered to thrive.